Previously on the Convent series. Clara was sent to a conversion therapy convent by her family for loving a woman. Abandoned by her mother, stripped of her phone and freedom, she meets Sister Catherine, a nun who's been imprisoned in this place for 15 years. When Clara refuses to participate in therapy, Dr. Morrison orders intensive intervention. But before leaving, Sister Catherine whispers something that changes everything. Don't let them see your fire. Let it burn underground. Now Clara realizes Sister Catherine isn't her enemy. She's something far more dangerous, an ally. But what is she planning? And why has she really stayed here all these years? If you enjoy my content and want to support the channel, please consider subscribing. It's free, and it truly means a lot to me. So, you know that feeling when you realize the person you thought was your enemy might actually be the only one trying to save you? Yeah, that's where I was, trapped in a convent that wants to brainwash me, and the only person who seems human is a nun who hasn't left this place in a decade and a half. Nothing about that is comforting, nothing about that makes sense, but nothing about my life makes sense anymore. Sister Catherine's words haunted me. Don't let them see your fire. What did that even mean? Was she telling me to hide? To pretend? To become one of those girls who walk the halls with dead eyes and perfect obedience? Because honestly, I'm terrible at pretending. I've never been good at being someone I'm not. That's literally why I'm here, because I refused to hide who I loved, because I thought being authentic was more important than being accepted. But then I started watching her more carefully, really studying her, like she was a subject and I was taking notes for the most important exam of my life. And I realized she was performing. Every single moment of every single day, she was performing obedience. It was all choreography, all theater, all carefully calculated moves designed to look natural. The way she folded her hands during prayers, fingers interlaced, thumbs touching, held at exactly the right height. The way she kept her eyes downcast when the Mother Superior spoke, not fully closed, not vacant, but respectfully lowered with just the right amount of attentiveness. The way she moved through the building like she'd memorized every step, every gesture, every appropriate response to every possible situation. It was ballet. It was acting. It was survival dressed up as virtue. And the crazy thing, nobody seemed to notice. To them, she was the perfect nun, the model of rehabilitation, the success story they could point to and say, see, our methods work. This woman was once like you, broken, confused, sinful, and now look at her, saved, reformed, holy. But I saw the cracks. I saw the moments when the mask slipped just enough to reveal what was underneath. I saw the way her jaw tightened when Dr. Morrison spoke, muscles flexing beneath her skin like she was physically holding back words that wanted to explode. I saw the way she'd grip her rosary beads just a little too hard when the other nuns talked about saving us, knuckles going white with repressed rage. I saw the way she'd stare at those barred windows like she was counting the days, counting the years, counting the cost of staying alive in a place designed to kill who you really are. She was a prisoner pretending to be a guard, and somehow she'd been pulling it off for 15 years. Real quick, if you're loving the story, if it's giving you chills, and if you're already obsessed with Sister Catherine like I am, please subscribe, because what happens next? The punishments begin, and they are brutal. You need to hear this. You need to know what places like this really do. Hit that subscribe button, and let's keep going. The punishments started in week 2. I refused to participate in what they called reflection exercises. Basically, we were supposed to write essays about why our same-sex attraction was sinful and how we planned to overcome it. Pages and pages of self-flagellation disguised as spiritual growth. I wrote one sentence: I have nothing to overcome because I have nothing wrong with me. Dr. Morrison was not amused. He showed it to Sister Margaret. She showed it to the Mother Superior. And suddenly, I was called into the chapel for disciplinary prayer, which sounds peaceful, right? Sounds gentle. Sounds like maybe you just kneel for a bit, say some prayers, and then you're done. It's not. It means kneeling on a stone floor for 4 hours straight. 4 hours with nothing to cushion your knees, nothing to lean on, nothing to do except recite the same prayers over and over until your knees are bruised and bleeding, your voice is hoarse and cracking, and your mind feels like it's dissolving, like your thoughts are evaporating and all that's left is pain and the mechanical repetition of words that have lost all meaning. It's psychological torture disguised as penance. It's abuse wrapped in religion. It's them breaking you down piece by piece while calling it salvation. I lasted about 2 hours before I collapsed, just went down. My body gave out. I couldn't hold myself up anymore. I was shaking, crying, completely overwhelmed by the pain. And that's when Sister Catherine showed up. She didn't help me, didn't offer comfort, didn't touch me or ask if I was okay. She just stood there, perfect posture, a motionless face, and said, loud enough for the other nuns monitoring me to hear, "Get up, Clara. Self-pity is a sin greater than the one that brought you here. You will complete your penance." Harsh, right? I felt tears sting my eyes, not just from the pain now, but from betrayal, from the feeling that maybe she'd been wrong about her. Maybe she was just like the others after all. Maybe that whispered warning had been a test and I'd failed. I felt anger burn in my chest, felt desperation claw at my throat. But then she did something subtle, so subtle that if I hadn't been watching her so carefully, I would have missed it completely. She pressed her hand to her own knee, just for a second, just a tiny gesture, rubbing the joint. No one else saw it, the nuns were too far away, but I saw and I understood. She was showing me she'd been there too, that she'd survived this exact punishment, that she knew exactly what I was feeling, that I wasn't alone, that I could survive too. It was communication in code, solidarity through silence, resistance hidden inside compliance. So I got up. I forced myself back onto my knees, even though every nerve in my body was screaming, and I finished those 4 hours. I recited those prayers until they stopped being words and just became sounds, until I stopped being Clara and just became a body performing the motions they demanded. When it was finally over, when Sister Margaret finally said, "You're dismissed," I could barely stand. My legs wouldn't work properly. I was shaking and weak and dizzy. Sister Catherine walked me back to my room, her hand on my elbow, steadying me. We passed the Mother Superior in the hallway, and Sister Catherine said she completed her penance beautifully, a model of repentance. I believe she's learning. But once we were alone in my room, once she'd closed the door and checked to make sure no one was listening outside, her mask slipped. Just a little, just enough. "You need to be smarter, Clara." Her voice was still quiet, still controlled, but there was urgency underneath it, real concern, real fear. Every act of rebellion gets noted, gets recorded, gets used against you. Do you understand? "So what am I supposed to do?" I asked, my voice hoarse from hours of prayer. Just give up? Pretend to be someone I'm not? Lie about everything I am? "Yes," she said simply, without hesitation. "That's exactly what you're supposed to do." She walked to my tiny window, stared out at the courtyard where other girls were doing their assigned work, pulling weeds, sweeping paths, performing productivity. "Do you know what happens to girls who don't learn to perform here?" she asked. "They get transferred to a place that makes this look like summer camp, a place where they use medication, isolation, electroshock therapy disguised as treatment. Some of them never come out. Some of them come out, but they're not themselves anymore. They're shells, ghosts, broken in ways that can't be repaired." My blood ran cold. "You're serious?" I asked. "I don't joke about survival," she replied. Then she turned to me, and in her eyes I saw 15 years of horror, 15 years of seeing girls disappear, 15 years of knowledge that made her old before her time. This institution doesn't want to cure you, it wants to break you. And once you're broken, they can rebuild you into whatever they want. But if you perform obedience, if you give them the show they need, you can keep your mind intact. You can keep yourself. You can survive until you can escape. Is that what you did? Kept yourself? Her expression went completely blank, like I'd crossed a line, like I'd asked the question she'd been avoiding for a decade. I did what I had to do to survive, she said. Hold on, pause. If you're feeling this, if your heart is racing, if you're angry at what these places do to people, hit that like button, drop a comment. Tell me, have you ever had to hide who you really are just to survive? Because that's what this is about, survival, and it's about to get so much more intense. She moved toward the door, her hand on the knob, already pulling away, already rebuilding her walls. But I couldn't let her leave, not yet, not without understanding. You told me you were brought here to be fixed 15 years ago. Did it work? Are you fixed? She stopped, her hand frozen on that doorknob. For a long moment, she didn't move, didn't speak, didn't even breathe, it seemed like. And I thought maybe I'd pushed too far. Maybe she was going to report me. Maybe I'd just ruined the only potential ally I had. But then she turned back to me, slowly, and her eyes, God, her eyes looked like battlefields, like a war had been fought behind them and nobody had won. Like she'd survived, but at a cost so high it couldn't be calculated. No, she whispered. I'm not fixed. I'm just better at hiding. And then she left.
That conversation changed everything. Because I realized Sister Catherine wasn't just a survivor, she was a resistance fighter, operating undercover for 15 years. And suddenly, that coldness made sense. That detachment made sense. She wasn't cruel, she was careful. Every interaction was calculated. Every word was strategic, because one slip, one moment of genuine emotion, one crack in the performance could destroy her. I started following her advice, started performing. When Dr. Morrison asked about my progress, I told him I'd been reflecting deeply and struggling with my faith, and beginning to see that my feelings might be misguided. I used all their buzzwords, all their religious language, all their therapeutic jargon. I saw his face light up, saw him write responsive to treatment and showing signs of breakthrough in his notes. It made me want to vomit, but it also made me understand what Sister Catherine had been doing all these years. The other girls started noticing me too, during group prayers, during meals, during our supervised recreation time in the courtyard. They could tell I was different, not broken yet, still fighting, even if that fight looked like compliance on the surface. One girl, Sarah, approached me in the library. She was probably 19, with these haunted eyes that had seen too much too young. "You're new," she said, shelving books next to me. "Is it that obvious?" I replied, quietly, aware that we were probably being monitored. She almost smiled, just a ghost of one. "You still have hope. Give it time, they'll take that too." But here's what really got me. Sarah slipped me a note. Tiny, folded paper hidden in a book she handed me. I waited until I was alone in my cell to read it. It said, "Sister Catherine helped me. Trust her, even when it doesn't make sense. Especially when it doesn't make sense. Trust her." I stared at that note for hours. What did it mean? How had Sister Catherine helped Sarah? And why was she risking everything to help girls she was supposed to be reforming? What was her endgame? I got my answer a week later, during confession. We had mandatory confession every Saturday. You'd sit in this tiny booth with Father Thomas, this ancient priest who'd been working with the convent for decades, confess your impure thoughts, and receive penance. I hated it, hated the whole performance of it, hated having to narrate my own supposed sins to a man who thought loving women was equivalent to murder. But I went, because that's what performing obedience means. You do the things you hate, you say the words you don't believe, you become a puppet of their expectations. Except this time, when I entered the confessional booth, it wasn't Father Thomas on the other side of the screen. It was Sister Catherine. "Father Thomas is ill," she said, calmly, her silhouette barely visible through the grate. "I have been instructed to record your transgressions for his review later." My heart started racing, because suddenly we were alone. Truly alone, with a screen between us and the excuse of official record-keeping protecting us. Nobody could question what we said here. The booth was soundproof, private. "I don't have anything to confess," said I, carefully. "Not the things you want to hear, anyway." "Then tell me the things I don't want to hear," she replied. Her voice was different here, softer, more real, like the confessional booth was the one place she could take off her mask. "Tell me the truth, Clara." So I did. I told her about Emma, about falling in love, about that feeling of rightness when I finally stopped lying to myself, about pride and protest and poetry, and everything my family wanted to erase. I told her everything, and she listened, completely silent, just listened. And I realized, when was the last time anyone actually listened to me? When was the last time I was allowed to be real? When I finished, there was a long pause. Then she said something that made my breath stop. "You think love is your sin. It's not. Your sin is that you refuse to be ashamed of it." Another pause. "And that refusal is the most powerful weapon you possess." Before I could respond, the confessional booth door ripped open. Light flooded in, blinding me. The Mother Superior was standing there. Her face was thunderous. Her eyes darted from me to the screen where Sister Catherine sat, and I knew we'd been caught. Did the Mother Superior hear everything? Is Sister Catherine about to be exposed? And what secret has she been hiding for 15 years? The next episode reveals the truth about Sister Catherine's past, and trust me, you are not prepared. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because episode 3, The Woman I Wasn't Allowed to Become, drops next, and it's going to shatter everything you thought you knew. Don't miss it. This is where the story becomes revolutionary.